people think of Playboy or Playmates, they just think of like beautiful women and just very one-dimensional, sex symbols. But these are real people and they live real lives, and sometimes tragic things happen. And I think real human stories should be told. When I lived at the mansion for 7 years, that involved some very dark times for me. And because I experienced those things, it makes me feel like I can resonate with these stories a little bit. And it really makes me want to share these real people's stories, especially since many of these people aren't around to share the stories themselves. Just the most important thing to me with all the cases is just that we handle it as respectfully as possible and not do anything, gratuitous, or, we just want to be respectful and keep like the victims' families in mind as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll keep that in mind.
When I first heard of the idea for the Playboy Murders, the producers showed me the cases they were thinking about covering, and they were cases that I had never heard of, and that really surprised me because I thought I knew everything about Playboy's history and about what happened to all the Playmates and things like that, and that really intrigued me, and I really saw that as a show that I would love to watch. So I was really excited about these stories, and I was really excited to bring more attention to these stories, and that was something that really appealed to me. When I lived at the mansion, I felt safe in a lot of ways because you're living in this big house, behind a private gate with security. But sometimes, and I've learned this through the stories we're covering, sometimes that can be like a false sense of security for some of the women who are involved, because then after having all this exposure, they just go back to their normal lives where they don't have that security and they don't have that protection. And that can be a big adjustment sometimes, especially when fans and people who buy the magazines, sometimes there's people out there with, different ideas about what their accessibility should be. I actually brought a photocopy of the original Playboy Bunny handbook, the one that Carol would have been given. So some of the rules are pretty interesting.
Can I have a look?
Go over those, yeah.
This is bad even for the...
I know, even for the stuff they're willing to put in print, right? I think I realized there was a dark side to Playboy probably like after, my first night out with the group, or right when I moved in. But I wanted it to be better, and I wanted, when you're young, you feel like, okay, well, this is just like, I have to be a hard worker and I have to, make it in the world or do what I have to do. But, as time went on, over the years, you just kind of realize where the actual problems lie.
So even though it's like a photo studio that we've dropped in on, you've been in the middle of a shoot, and then the idea is we've pulled you away just to talk to us about the series, but we're trying to keep that vintage Playboy look that we've had throughout. So we're trying to make everything, as you know, look like a Playboy club.
Yeah, I like the chair. It adds like a nice texture to it.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
The first TV show I ever did was a reality show where I was presented as being a certain way, but that wasn't me at all. It was just like all these edited clips to make me look completely different. So being behind the scenes on a show that's about facts and real stories and that's very sympathetic toward the victims is really rewarding to me, because I love telling real stories and I love being a part of that. I think Playboy appealed to women for so many reasons. For me personally, I saw it as a stepping stone to Hollywood. I saw it as a thing I could do that would make me feel beautiful and glamorous, and something I could do that would be exciting and fun, and, something to do while I was young. And I think, to like a small town girl, it can look like a rite of passage, or, you see some of the people who were Playmates who then went on to be really famous or successful. So I think it's almost like wanting to be in a pageant or something like that. People should watch the Playboy Murders because these are real stories about real people who sadly aren't around to tell their own story anymore. And I feel like so many of these stories didn't get the attention that they deserve. And I feel like there's something we can learn from these stories, because these things could happen to anybody.